Welcome to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock, who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome, and today I am delighted to have as my guest Evan Mestman. Evan is the Chief Gratitude Officer and founder of Pro Attitudes Health, Wellness, and Mindset Coaching, where he says, I found my passion to help things grow when I was a kid in my garden. Now I grow lasting habits with my business, Pro Attitudes. He's a writer, he's a coach, he speaks about living life and losing weight with your mind, not your mouth. Welcome, Evan. Great to have you.
Hey, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I'm grateful that you have me on today.
Well, terrific, and I definitely want to hear about losing weight with your mind, not your mouth. But before we jump into that, everybody has a unique story, and I know that yours is as well. And I always like to start with, what's your story, and why do you do what you do?
Isn't it the origin story? It's always a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I started my journey. I was my first client. It was when I was a kid. My nickname was Heavy Evie, and I got bullied for it, and I really just hated it. I had to look in the mirror and decide, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be going on that diet every Monday like my mom did. I need to do something different. And I decided to just make some ordinary changes in habits. And those ordinary changes started to lead up to extraordinary transformation that happened over a summer. And I've been reverse engineering it ever since. And I've had this passion. So I went to school to learn more about I'm a nutritionist. I have a master's in clinical nutrition. I'm a diabetes educator. I'm a dietitian, certified nutritionist, personal trainer. I wanted to know it all. I want to understand that what is it that really makes the difference between a lasting habit and just something that's fleeting. And, part of what I do is help leaders do this because I ended up becoming an accidental salesman and through some of the pivots in my life. And I help leaders optimize their health as they're climbing that ladder to success because I needed to do the same thing. So even though during my childhood, I learned how to do this, when I came to corporate America, I started to find that, the weight was going on. I wasn't sleeping as well. I wasn't eating as well. There was a lot of challenges. And so it's really something I'm passionate about because I've come back after solving it for myself. Now I've come back to help leaders really do this for themselves. And it's really a passion of mine because if I can do it, anybody can do
it. Well, and I think, all of us that try to make a difference, try to help others, usually have something in our backgrounds that has us realize that we need to do something. We need to help others with what we've discovered for ourselves. So I acknowledge you for taking that on and making that part of your mission. As a matter of fact, you have a book on the subject, The Habits of Healthy Eating, I believe. We'll have excellent. We'll have a link to that in the description, as well as all the other links, because you've got the goods when it comes to your social media presence. And I will mention all of them throughout, but the best place to actually, follow you or see all of this wonderful free content that you have available through all these various social media platforms is through your proattitudes.com website /follow. And then they'll have links to all of your social media platforms where you've got everything from video to text to, all kinds of stuff. But really, and I realize there's a lot that clients could engage with you, or potential clients could engage with you on, but what are the biggest issue or two that really comes up when clients are first reaching out to you?
So the biggest challenge that I find, one of the things that I help people do, you mentioned at the beginning, is that I help my clients live their life with their minds, not their mouth. And mostly that's focused on weight loss, because that's the biggest issue. Nearly over 70% of Americans are either overweight or obese. It's just an epidemic today. And nearly 50% of people have either diabetes or are pre-diabetic. And half of the people who have diabetes don't even know it. So we're dealing with some really major health issues that are all related to habits, because I don't believe that these chronic illnesses that exist, like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune function issues, even the mental illnesses that we have today, are strictly metabolic issues. I think that they're diseases of the neural pathways of our brain. And if we can change those neural pathways through neuroplasticity, which is just the fact of creating new neural pathways by learning and practicing creating new habits, a lot of those issues, not all of them, but a lot of them can be resolved. And, I start with habits first. You go to the doctor doesn't start with habits. They start with typically medication. So after habits is nutrition, which plays a major role too. And then under nutrition, maybe supplements. And below that, then last resort or working with it would be then medication. But I find that the people that I work with are struggling. They're struggling with the inner critic, which is the voice in their head that they hear. The person they have the most conversations with every day is themselves. And that inner critic is the one that's constantly being critical. I found that if I helped people silence, not necessarily silence, quiet it. Quieting doesn't mean silencing it, because it's still part of who you are. But you've got to learn that you are not your thoughts, you're not your feelings. Suddenly what ends up happening is, instead of constantly reacting to that voice in their head, they now are focusing on, well, what can I do? And that is really a major thing, which happens, which I call it intentionality. They become intentional with their health. They're intentional with their thinking, their eating, and their living. And it all happens one choice at a time.
And would you say, and this is not something that we discussed beforehand, but, would you say that part of this is fear? What holds us back from wanting to make a different choice, get into a different habit, practice a different way. And then in a minute, I'm going to tie this to video socials, because it was very much designed and engineered with exactly the same psychological principles that you're talking about, which is, we are our own worst critics. We are fearful of change and fearful of having something taken away, and or being judged. Right. So, but I'm curious as to your thoughts, and sort of kind of put you on the spot, but how does fear play into this?
So fear is probably the main emotion that a lot of people are feeling when it comes to focusing on the future. It also could be anger and regret, because they're focusing on the past.
Right.
My program's called the B3 way. It's intentional health, but I use the B3 way, which is become, be strong, be grateful. And this B3 way helps people, my leaders, focus on the precious present. Part of fear is ruminate. It's anchored in where your skill set of getting outside your comfort zone is maybe not well developed. So that's part of the be strong in the B3 way. It's how do you develop that muscle to say, hey, push past the fear, lean into the fear, use courage so that you can become capable. That capability makes you feel more confident. And with that confidence, you can now make more commitments, which will be scary, but what's the worst that can happen? I say fail fast. It's how fast you recover, but that's how you learn. There's no such thing as no failure, or you have to learn. And
Right.
and that's part of like riding a bike, or when we first were babies, and everybody, if anyone had a kid and their kids learned as infants how to walk, how many times did they fall before they actually did walk?
Yep.
Right. So that's really that unfortunately somewhere up here we get that messed up, and we think, well, I'm afraid, so I'm going to stay in the comfort zone. I'm going to make excuses so that I don't have to get hurt, or I don't have to take that risk. And that's all part of the process of what I do with my clients, because it is something that they can learn to do. And it's really, it's transformational, and it makes a huge difference when you suddenly make a commitment and keep it, no matter how small, how much better you feel.
Right. I can't help myself. It's like there are so many parallels in what you do and what I do, although we do completely different things. Right. So, video socials was born out of the concept that people fear being on camera. They fear being judged. They fear, they have anxiety around, and there's a whole bunch of reasons behind this, not the least of which is not wanting to be perceived as foolish or amateurish, or et cetera, et cetera. So how do you get out of your comfort zone to do that? Well, you don't do it alone, first of all. You do it in a group of other people that are doing the same thing, and you do it in a safe environment where if it doesn't go well, you don't publish it, right? So when it comes to creating marketing content, and so in video, as we know, is kind of the holy grail at this point in the social media sphere. So if you're going to create content, why not make it video? Because that allows people to connect with you. That allows people to have a better sense of who you are, the energy that you're projecting, the message that you have, etc. So we created video socials as small groups. We get together, we take turns, not only recording our videos, but giving each other feedback on those videos and supporting and encouraging. And I think one of the most valuable components of it is that we're giving each other that feedback, and that feedback helps to negate or quiet, as you said, that own self-criticism. Because when we're saying what we're saying, doing what we're doing, we have what we think is coming across, and we have our worries, our concerns, our fears about how it's being perceived. Well, you get direct feedback as to actually how it is being perceived by others, because you're getting that immediate feedback from others that are not there to criticize you, but are there to support and encourage and offer suggestions of how it might go a little better or a little different. You might try a little different tact or path. And so we say video socials is a safe place to practice and experiment, so that we can get in the habit, that we can develop, through practice, the ability to have a conversation on camera instead of presenting to an inanimate object called a camera.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So that's video socials in a nutshell. There's no cost or obligation to come as a guest. We'd love to have you if you're a professional that is trying to grow your business through marketing and find yourself in that position where some of that internal insecurity or your own internal critic is getting in the way. Let us help you get past that. Videosocials.net. Just click the guest tab at the top of the screen. And next, I kind of want to transition into what I know is important, and I think we hear it all the time, but even myself, we tend to let it sit on the side because we get so consumed with the negative, with what's going on in the world, with what's getting in our way, et cetera, that we don't pay close enough attention to gratitude. And how do you find that gratitude plays a role in your coaching when you're working with clients?
Well, gratitude's a cornerstone. It's like a cornerstone of my coaching philosophy. It's part of that B3 way: become, be strong, be grateful. The become is the transformation and connecting to your why. And that can't happen until we do some deep digging and find out what the underlying issues are. The be strong is the growth mindset, that perseverance. And grit and resilience that you need in order to make it through the mistakes you're going to make, but you're not there yet, but you're getting there, making that progress. And then gratitude changes everything. Gratitude gets you really grounded in the precious present. It's letting you know what you have is enough. I don't focus on outcomes. Clients come to me, a lot of times business leaders, they have weight to lose, or they have their blood sugars that they need to manage with their diabetes or their blood pressure or heart disease, whatever it may be. It's an outcome. But what I want to do is get past the outcome, because it's like, hey, I'm going on a vacation. I want to look good. You go on vacation, you reach that goal. What happens when you get back? You go back to your old habits. But what if it was, instead of an outcome, it was a process? It was a system that you created. And then beyond that, what if it was an identity that you created, that now you're seeing it through a different lens? And gratitude is the lens that I like to have people look through, because not only will it keep them centered in that precious present, so that they're not thinking about the future and fearing it, right, and starting to think about the past and regret and focus on the anger of what might have happened in the past, that having that daily practice of gratitude changes neural pathways. It really does make a huge difference. And in my Facebook group, which it's going to be in that link that I offer to all your guests here, there is an introduction to my Facebook group. I have gratitude practice that I ask everybody to do. There's no charge to it, right? You come into the Facebook group, I teach you how to do it. It's a really simple thing. But what happens when you start saying, well, these are 3 things I'm grateful for. You start looking at things differently. And looking through that lens changes the mindset. It also quiets the inner critic. So it has a twofold benefit there, actually threefold, right? Isn't it great to be able to say, yeah, you might aspire to this big, hairy, audacious goal, but I'm grateful for where I am now. There's a wonderful thing when you have that humility to be able to practice gratitude, but also agency to feel I'm empowered to make a change and see these results. And that leads to what everybody's looking for, more joy in their life.
Right. Well, and acknowledging whatever step that you take, right? And it's we see this in helping people create content for marketing. It's like, you're not doing anything, and so you got a newsletter out now, or you wrote a blog post, or you created your first video, or whatever it is. That's immense. The first step is the hardest step to take. And so acknowledge yourself for that. Be grateful for you found a path to get on you found a way to get on the path, right? And every step along the way that you take, and this is I say anything in life, basically, that when you're trying to rewire yourself, you're trying to recreate those neural pathways, you're trying to speak into existence a different future, for yourself. You are we need to acknowledge, and we need to feel and get present to our gratitude for where that path can take us, and what we've done so far, who we've been to get to that first step, that 10th step, that 100th step, whatever it is. And a little secret for me that has been revealed to me is that when you're helping others take those steps, it's incredibly fulfilling. Right.
The research also shows that with gratitude, that it's not so much when you're giving gratitude, but when you're receiving it from somebody else, that there's even more power to it in the happy brain chemicals that really set your whole being in the right trajectory. And between dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, acetylcholine, oxytocin, all of them working together as neuromodulators, when you can light them up in a way that's going to make you feel better, attached to a habit, it means you're going to feel that more often. And that again is, what I like to call that the habits of a happy and productive brain.
I like that. I like that a lot. So, but for the CEO that or business leader that is looking and saying, all this sounds great and everything, but I need an ROI. What results and can I expect to see? Because we can make this transition and all this kind of stuff, but I need to have something more concrete to grab hold of.
And that is to me, it's so important. My clients see amazing results, but more importantly, their transformation in their lives, they're starting to see the results that are not about just weight loss. They're starting to have better relationships with themselves, which means they're having better relationships with everybody else. I call it private victories really lead to public victories. So if they're focusing on that relationship with themselves, quieting that inner critic and learning how to develop instead of the critic and quieting, you're developing the inner coach. Like, this is my inner critic. I've shrunk him down to 6 inches here. It's that's Darth Vader, but my inner coach is Yoda. And yes, I encourage people to name their inner critics and their inner coaches. And I love the names that I get from people. But what happens is the relationships they have with their teammates, they suddenly start changing. The dynamics change. And they start to see not only that their private victories are, wow, I'm now not constantly thinking about the negative. I'm focusing on what I'm grateful for, and I'm seeing results. Wow, I'm not dieting. I'm not doing this crazy fad diet or exercise program. And now, oh, wow, I'm starting to see that I'm being more productive. I'm more engaged at work. I'm more productive. I'm not worrying about thinking about what other people are thinking. I'm focusing on what's truly important to me. So give you an example. I have a client of mine that came to me at the beginning of the year. He was referred by a doctor and he was going to go under the knife for gastric sleeve surgery that Monday. He called me on, I think it was Thursday or Friday. And I didn't talk him out of it. I just had a conversation with him. But he had such doubt because he had done the research, but he thought that this was the only way. When I had the conversation, he called his surgeon up, canceled, came over, slapped down and said, I'm ready to make the commitment. And just this week, as I'm working with him now, he's down 79 pounds. So he's losing faster than he would have under the knife, according to him. He's like, he knows what the people are doing under the knife, right? Because the cohorts that he was with in the group, a lot of people went under, had the surgery. He didn't. But it's amazing watching how he has taken on more of a leadership role within where he is in his business, and the results that he's seeing also in the relationship he has with his kids, with his wife. And it's amazing, his commitment to making his life better now. Now, his goal is to lose 100 pounds, but now it's not about losing 100 pounds. Now he says, I'm thinking as if I'm a healthy business owner. That's his identity. So now he's making choices not on, I have to resist temptation. He's like, well, I don't even want the pizza where I'm at a meeting, right? I'm looking for the healthier choices. I'm planning. So what happens is all those choices, all those challenges that people have, they shift. And the paradigm is up here, though. The shift has to happen up here. And that's my specialty, is to find a way to shift the mindset so that they're living their life with their minds, not their mouths.
So I'm going to reveal something that's personal. That is, I wasn't planning on mentioning. I had gastric bypass surgery 20 years ago, and let me tell you something. You're going to lose some weight, and you're going to lose it really rapidly. And I was absolutely convinced that there was no other path for me. And as a matter of fact, I lost almost 200 pounds, but I'm back up another 50. Right. So it's the body heals. Right. And, for some, surgical intervention is their best choice. But I would say have a conversation with you first, because if you don't shift the mindset, if you don't have a reason that's bigger than I just want to lose the weight, right? If it isn't driving towards something, if it isn't driving towards a more fulfilling life, or more joyful life, a more productive life, a having better relationships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then the old habits are going to sneak back in, because the body does heal, right? All that gastric bypass surgery does is it disables your body from the ability to absorb calories and nutrients. And it can be very effective in the short term. And I knew when I was in part, because I had to even get qualified for the surgery, I actually started support groups around it, and et cetera, et cetera. So I knew people that had it. I knew people that were planning on it, or in the process, somewhere in the process. I had 2 years of nutritionalists and physical therapists and personal trainers, et cetera, that I did in preparation for, and to try to lose weight beforehand. But at no point did we really talk about the mindset. Right? Did we really talk about what was the underlying cause that led me to get to a point of at that point hormonally almost impossible to lose weight. Right? Because the body goes into a storage mode that is extremely difficult to get out of once you get up to a certain point. But if I'd had that mindset going in, I may have had the surgery anyway, but it's what was missing is exactly what you're talking about. And so
thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy to do that, and congratulations on absolutely letting go of all that weight, regardless of whether it was through surgery or not. It was a journey you were on.
Yeah.
And I tell people it's the same as medication. When you take a medication, sometimes you need it to help you when you have pain, but you can't stay on that pain medication. Why are so many people suffering from opioid overdosing or addiction? Because the pain that release of pain that they're feeling, they haven't really dealt with underlying issues. This was an immediate issue, but now it's like, well, I want that, but it doesn't solve the problem, not the underlying issue. And that is why it took me a while to find the right way to explain it to people. And I knew it up here in my head, but I'm like, wow, this really explains it. I help people live their life and lose weight with their minds, not their mouth, because it is powerful. Diets work, exercise programs work, but the habits are stronger. So if you don't change the mindset, like you said, and it's, 50 pounds gaining that back, it might be a healthy place where you are right now. It's great. But I encourage anybody who's thinking about it, even like the client that I had, he had been through the same training as you and had already lost a few pounds beforehand, but it's dealing, and they're better now today. Maybe how long ago did you do this?
20 years.
Yeah. So now they do have really great, where you're working with psychologists and such, but even it was just this year, he still needed that acknowledgement saying, you know what? Because 40%, up to 40% of people gain the weight back, even with gastric sleeve surgery, within 3 years. Nearly 85% gain it back within 5 years. I couldn't imagine doing that to yourself. And that just means that we're not dealing with that underlying issue for a good percentage of people.
Well, and it starts you into a spiral, right?
Yeah.
Because and I've had some level of yo-yo, gain 50, take it back off, gain another 50. Now I'm working on taking it back off again. But it's a vicious cycle that puts you in a position where the guilt and the self, it goes beyond critic.
Flagellation, the self-flagellation. Yes. Yes.
right? It's like, what's wrong with me?
You talked about having the judge. One of the inner critics is called I call it the faceless judge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm talking about mine, right? Mine will say this to me, but with much stronger words. And learning that is a lie is so important. There is a way to talk to yourself more kindly with some empathy. I'm not there yet. I'm one day closer to where I want to be, right? And that's that inner coach. And developing that is a skill set. And it's absolutely positive. And you talk about this on and off. I call that a roller coaster ride. There's on the links, there's I would say that there's my video sales letter. It's a training that I have that will help people understand how to get off that yo-yo on and off roller coaster riot of dieting. Right. Because it has to do up here with not looking at it being transactional with a diet. It's about really having a new relationship with yourself. Right. And the way I do that too, I make it really easy for people. We identify with a lifestyle challenge assessment. It's lots and lots of questions, which doesn't take more than 10, 15 minutes to do, that identifies 7 key areas. There's 7 areas that we look at in their life, and it kind of boils it down to like 5 top problems. If you can focus on those top 5 problems, those are the lifestyle challenges that if we're laser focused on, that's going to get you to success. And it makes it that easy. And all the other ones will fall into place because that's just how our brains work. And then what we do is we create a personalized plan for people. And then beside the plan, it's about celebrating the milestones along the way so we can develop that inner coach instead of feeding the inner critic. Because it wants more than food. It wants criticism.
Well, and that's the habit that we literally are trained from almost from birth, right? So
it's the ego. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. It thrives on conflict, and if you want to eliminate, or not so much eliminate, but you want to shrink the power it has, the way we do that is by focusing on the being, not the thinking. Not the mind, but the being. What is being? It's gratitude. It's focusing on the precious present. Those are skill sets that make a huge difference. And it actually unleashes the superpowers, which is why I love the reference to, whoever your inner coach is releasing those superpowers. It's being in that power state. Some people call flow versus the primal state, which is that fight or flight response. That we don't want. We don't want people stuck in that fight or flight response.
And we do, right? It comes. Look, if you've got something that you want to accomplish in life, something that you want to do, you're going to run into obstacles. You're going to run into challenges around it, and your choice, fight or flight, right? And it's not. But that's in and of itself, I think, is a little bit of a disempowering way of looking at it.
Well, because I would tell people to allow it, but what we want to do, because it's the default, it's for protecting us so we survived. It's part of how we were built. Okay, it's genetics. It's just evolution. But then, how do we develop? Then from there, it's about recovering quickly. If your hand was over a hot stove, what would you do?
Move it away. Yeah.
So that's what we do. We recover as quickly as possible. So when you acknowledge that, inner critic just talked, and we bring it to the conscious mind by acknowledging and saying, yeah, thank you. You don't serve me anymore. I appreciate it. That's that recovery. It makes a huge difference. And that practice, it sounds simple. It is a little tedious in the beginning. I remember doing it myself, but wow, the power of awareness, what it will do. It takes all the power away from your inner critic. And that is then how you can get to your power state.
Okay. So we've got to get people connected to you and get people looking at it, because you have a wealth of information online. So as you said, or as mentioned earlier, proattitudes.com/follow is going to give you all the links. You're on LinkedIn at Evan Mestman. You're on YouTube at ProAttitudes5529. You're on Facebook at B3 Pro Attitudes, Instagram, Google Business, TikTok, all the same, B3 Pro Attitudes. You've written a book. We're going to have a link in that, The Habits of Healthy Eating. And this program that you're talking about, I believe this is your Escape the Diet Tea. Is that?
Escape the Diet Trap.
Trap.
So it didn't finish. It should be the Diet Trap, not tea. So I hope I didn't send you the link and I cut it off. But it's in proattitudes.com/follow. You can click there and it'll give you that through that link.
And that's and again, that's free, right? So
listen, I want to help as many people as I can because I struggled, and it wasn't just with weight. I had a terrible. I was very ill and very poor health most of my childhood. And optimizing my health took me years. I want to help people make that happen faster. And if I can help, people, which is what I'm doing, it makes my life. I mean, this is what gives me joy, is to help people find that path. And everybody's path's different. The principles, like you say, what you're using for your business, they're the same principles as what I use for mine, but with 30 years of experience, with all that I've learned, not just in nutrition, but also what I've learned in mindset and what I've learned in also in corporate America, spending 20 years in corporate America in leadership. I really know and understand what it takes in order to get people to find joy in their life and to live the life they've always dreamed of.
Outstanding. And I think we'll call it there, but really a pleasure. Absolutely a pleasure, and a bit of a surprising pleasure, to be honest with you. So I think for timing wise, it's good for me, and I hope it's good for many of those that are watching today. And thank you, Evan, for coming in. And you did have a couple of people that you also thought might be a good guest for this show on Inspiring Business.
People who've went through transformation just like me, but different businesses. Jake Talapic and Joe Applebaum are two really amazing human beings, individuals, and amazing businessmen that I think would be wonderful guests on your show.
Terrific. So Jake is the marketing wizard, I believe.
Yes. And Joe Applebaum does two jobs. He has Evergreen Networking, where he's a LinkedIn strategist and does a wonderful job of helping people understand how to be evergreen in your posting and grow your business through LinkedIn. And he also has Ajax Union, which is a digital marketing agency.
Excellent. Well, we'll certainly reach out to them and look forward to possibly having them on the podcast as well. Evan, really want to acknowledge you for the difference that you make and the mission that you've taken on for yourself to help others through something that so much, as you said, 70% of society is at one level or another struggling with, or at least dealing with. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my stories and get the word out there, help as many people as I can.
Terrific.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.